one of them is being the authentic, being non-self and being non-duality. And I hope that I have cleared that one up, that no, being authentic is not about being non-self. The authentic is part of the duality where you have ego on one side and you have the authentic on the other side. However, the ego is the cul-de-sac or the dead end. The authentic is where you have a gap into the non-self. So by being in the non-self and being authentic, being an observer, to being in the authentic and to be the observer, you have a gap into the non-self and into non-duality. Then I have another question about how do I get rid of the ego? And you can't. You can't get rid of it. You can learn to be with what is, and by that, a non-identifying with the ego is happening. We have also touched on it, I think, today when we talked about it. But the ego only gets fuel if you pick it up or if you fight against it. So by being with it, you completely disarm it, and then you are in the authentic, in the observer. So it's about observing what is, and then the ego will fade, but you can never get rid of it. It's part of you. It's part of the illusion of an I. And then the last question is, how do I become more authentic? And that is what I just said, by being present with what is. Whatever you are observing, if you don't like it, it's okay. It's still part of what you're observing. If you don't like it and you go like, but I don't want it like that, then you're in a participant. Pull yourself out of it, go into the observing and keep staying in the observing. Then whatever comes up is okay, because it's just what is happening. You cannot argue with reality. It is what is happening. And then you are already the authentic. The most important takeaway with this conversation today, it is that you always have a gap into the authentic. You can always pull yourself from the feelings into the observer. And when you are in the observer, you're no longer attached to all the feelings. There's no identifying with the feelings. There's just an observing. From there, there's a gap into the non-self. And the more that it is what I'm talking about with the dependent co-arising, that one thing leads to the other. And the more you're in the authentic, the more you are experiencing samadhi, the more you're experiencing the non-self and the non-duality and the just being, and the less suffering you have. Suffering only happens in the ego, because that is when you're in the participant. And that's where all the chemistry, the emotions are happening. When you're in the observer, the chemistry is still happening, but you're not identifying with it, which means that you're not suffering anymore. But you're still in the physical being. I have to make that clear.
Yeah.